Oregon, proud graduate of Cleveland High School. Also, turns out I was part of the first Verselandia, which was almost 10 years ago, which kind of dates me. And I remember this very clearly because I got second place to Lauren Steele, and I've never forgotten it. And that has what made me into a poet today. That is my villain origin story. But, I'm here today as part 2 of everybody's workshop and poetry crafting towards Virtualandia itself. And I wanted to focus on the performance aspect in which you've got your poem, you're trying to figure out what's the best way to, quote, perform it. What's the best way to find the poem's voice and to actually emphasize, accentuate, and be the voice of your poem. It's a little bit daunting. It's a little bit difficult. I feel like we've all seen the Parks and Rec 21 Jump Street, like anything can be a poem if you talk like this. And I think that with the cadence and with the way you present your own poetry, you have to understand what works best for your poem and yourself. So hopefully this workshop will kind of explore that. We'll be looking at a few different poems that have a lot of different performance aspects, a lot of very good things to analyze, and then we'll be able to take that lens back to your own poem. And we'll end today with a little writing prompt, and if you would like, maybe a little discussion, depending on how many folks are coming through. So with that being said, let's start the quote lecture. And I'm gonna say that I used to do, before I was a writer, I wanted to be a musician. And before that, I wanted to be an actor. So I've had a lot of various stage experience. And one of my stage experiences as an actor involved a lot of improv. And also when I was in high school, I did a lot of speech and debate. So I had a lot of different performance venues to do. There's a difference between performing on stage with an entire cast versus performing at 8 a.m. at a speech and debate tournament with one judge in front of you and your only audience is your 5 competitors. That's going to be a different kind of performance thing. So what I learned from venue to venue to venue is that the best thing that I can understand to really, really make my performance the best thing possible is to just get to the core of things. And core stands for character, objective, relationship, and environment. For all intents and purposes, because we are focusing on this kind of on a more performance, theatrical, dramatic lens, we're going to use core and kind of analyze poems as, quote, a script. So when we use core, it stands for character, objective, relationship, and environment. A character within a scene is just simply the people who are in the scene, who are in the poem. The speaker, whether or not the speaker is talking to other people, if it is actually an autobiographical poem or a persona poem, it's important to know what the characters are, especially the character in your own poem. And for me, character can be divided into 3 very easy categories: attitude, voice, and posture. When you're performing, you have to be very aware of these 3 different things. And if you choose one of them to focus on, the other 2 will fall in line. For example, if you use posture and you have a hunched over posture, your voice might start doing this and the attitude of this character is gonna be maybe a little bit shrivelly. Versus if your posture is a little bit straighter, your voice becomes a little bit louder. And what kind of attitude is this that you wanna convey to the audience? So having these 3 different things, attitude, voice, and posture, inform each other will help you also understand how to perform your poem. There will be times in your poem in which there will be low moments in which you don't want to become less intense, but you might need to lower the volume a little bit. The attitude has changed. Your posture might change. Your voice might change. And from there, we move on to the O, objective. What is this poem trying to accomplish? What is the goal? What do they want out of all of this? And sometimes a lot of poetry doesn't really have an objective because their objective is merely to explore or to have a conversation. So when you think about the objective, it's very important for you to know what you are trying to accomplish with your poem, with your poetry, with your piece. Then we move on to R, relationship. This is simply just the connections between the character, the objective, and the environment, which is what E stands for. But what is the character's relationship to their objective? What is the objective's relationship to the character, to the environment? How is the character influenced by the environment? How is the objective being influenced by the environment? Relationship is just another really solid tenet that makes sure everything is connected. And finally, we move on to E, which stands for environment. And this is, the what, when, where in a poem, in a scene, the actual physical locations. And a lot of the times, poems don't have a location, and that's okay. But it's you have to be aware of this. If you are not really in a space, then you're kind of imagining, well, what monologue would I be giving? Then maybe you're imagining the literal physical space, spotlight, microphone, maybe you're in a whiteout room, maybe you're in nature. There's a lot of different ways to kind of set the environment, whether or not it is literally the scenes in your poem or to set the mood and the tone of your poem. So with those 4 things in mind, character, objective, relationship, environment, we're going to look at 3 to 4 poems. And we're going to possibly discuss a little bit, and I'm going to go over a couple of points with them. So the first poem that we're going to see is by Anthony Mcpherson and Stephen Willis. And now with all those 4 things in mind, let's take a look at this poem.
I don't see anything yet. Are you screen sharing?
Oh, is it not here yet?
No, I don't see it yet. Did you click present?
Oh, no, I did not. Here we go. And I just need to make sure to... Thanks for bearing with me, everybody.
Okay, so I think he accidentally left the meeting, and he'll be back in a second. I think we're still getting used to Google Meet. So in the meantime, if either of you would want to unmute yourself maybe, or write in the chat your name and what you're interested about Virtualandia, that would be awesome. I'll start. My name is Emily. I'm interested in Virtualandia because I want to continue basically doing our slam poetry. And I hope that youth will still, do poetry in this time. Wondering if anyone else would like to chime in.
Hi, I'm Miranda. I'm learning about Virtualandia this year as a student journalist at Clark. So they've been really great letting me film on their events. That's why I'm here.
Awesome.
I'm Shayla, and hold on, let me think real quick. Sorry, what was the question again about Virtualandia?
Why are you interested in it? Or anything you want to share would be awesome.
I'm interested in Virtualandia because during the pandemic, I really got back into poetry again, and I feel like, practicing and getting my voice out there again is really important and keeps me motivated.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I'm really glad you're here. Yeah, and what school are you participating from?
I'm participating from Franklin.
Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. So have you ever participated in the school slams or Verselandia before?
Well, starting like this school year, I did the story slam. But this is like my first time I did like a Franklin. Or this is the first time I'm doing like a poetry slam for Franklin.
Cool. Awesome. Well, congrats. Yeah, and I think Virtualandia will be a pretty awesome experience, hopefully, to participate in. And if you have also missed any of the other things, we recorded the Q&A session from Monday. And then, oops, sorry, I got a notification. not sure how to see this. Oh my goodness, sorry. 1 second. It says that someone's trying to join, but I don't see him. Shoot. Let me see. I'm gonna see, sorry, if I can get out of this screen. Oh, there you go. He's back.
Hello.
Hi, sorry, I had to present to get kicked out of that thing. But sorry, I was just saying that I think Virtualandia will be exciting, and I think one of the cool things about it as you ramp up for doing a slam within your own school is that, you know, because we're doing the video format, it also gives you a chance to really practice and refine for your first submission too. So hopefully, like, this process will help you get set up for in the future when we do go back to in-person one day. You'll already have figured out how to, you know, really fine-tune the poetry performance skills, because you get to record yourself and see it back in live action.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's definitely also a skill to develop, in which you are being able to see yourself, look at the minute movements and see and actually analyze yourself. That's a real tough thing to do. But at least you don't have to do it all in one shot, and you don't have to worry about messing up. So there are advantages and disadvantages, and all of this actually relates back to core with E, environment. Where are you? How are you presenting these poems? The next 4 poems I am presenting to you are all in front of an audience, so please keep that in mind as you are kind of considering how you want to perform. Even though there is never, even in virtual spaces, I will always perform like there is an audience in front of me, but that's just my own personal style. Now, let's get back to the poems, shall we?
Okay, we'll hear back from Shayla in a little bit.
Okay, we all see it?
Yes.
Excellent.
For the boys told they were too dark to be the Dark Knight, too colored to be the Cape Crusader. Don't worry, there is a hero here to avenge it. And then the Black Panther said, "Fuck Batman." Oh, so you calling yourself the Dark Knight? Really, nigga? Did Hillary teach you how to nay-nay? Let me guess. You got hot sauce in your utility belt. You want to be me so bad. You're what I'd be if I had no power. And they praise you for your non-miraculous mediocrity. You let the world know anyone can be a hero. As long as you're born rich. It seems privilege is the only thing super about you. Your writers reward your underachievement, while we must be twice as good for half the battle. So, not only will I beat you in chess, despite you going first every time, my soul be bonded with the Panther God, the ethereal fist raised above heaven. Fuck a Batmobile. I got a black man-mobile on suicide doors and a kill switch. Cat Becky, Catwoman, it keeps burglarizing you, while me and my queen take this world by storm. Fuck a benign butler. I got a big mama blessed and been there, done that in Bible. They say I just might be a black Bruce Wayne in the making. Fuck that! I am T'Challa. Put some respect on my name. Bask in the benevolence of black bastardry. Can't copy the King Kunta charisma. Cam Newton meets Huey P. Newton in brains and bronze. This Jesus on the cross meets Jesus on the Ankh. I be the full spectrum of black shit, from Wakanda to Zamunda, light skin to dark skin, sweet to salty, grin, old running man to the marginalized masses mirror till we mirror Mansa Musa. Have you ever seen a black man's outfit protect him from bullets? I've got black boys everywhere trading in their gold chains for vibranium, a metal made of every sound. Zord. My people stay draped and dripped out in their own invincible voices. The Black Panther Party came after the Black Panther comic. Imagine what will happen when we soul train to the silver screen. We will know Superman is as irrelevant as phone booth. Not the Saturday. It's just a wannabe Afro. That MLK's secret identity is Malcolm X. Surprise, motherfucker. Look at me. I am the captain now. The real Dark Knight. Black Emperor. King of Kings. Network in the trillions. Don't make me buy Wayne Enterprises. Don't make me buy Gotham City. Don't make me buy DC Comics Batman. You just might be my sidekick in the making. Marvel. At this melanin.
So we've got this first poem, and let's look at the core of this poem. So characters, we have Black Panther, and Black Panther is addressing Batman. So for this purposes, let's say we've got two characters. And what are the attitude, voices, and postures of Black Panther, even though he's being played by two people? Anybody want to speak on that?
What I saw is that the posture, with like posture wise, they kind of were really like fluid with the posture, but most of the time it was mostly like kind of like strong and like stood up and like really animated. That's what I noticed.
And what do you think the objective of the poem is?
To be honest, it was kind of like hard to really hear it. I heard most of it though, but it was kind of like hard to really tell. But I think like what I grasped from that was like the whole objective was to, I had it, but it fell off my tongue. But I think it was addressing, from what I heard, I think it was addressing like how Black Panther is really like one of the only like Black superheroes in like the Marvel universe, and how like he was like addressing Batman. I know he was addressing Batman, but that's like one part that I got. I think that's what I heard.
And I think you said something about the posture and the physicality that kind of emphasized a strength, a fluidity, this kind of dynamic fireworks performance where it's Black Panther so directly addressing Batman. Do you think that if they had a more slow tempo and maybe a lighter, a slower voice, would that have how would that have affected the delivery of the poem?
I feel like if it was more slower, and when it comes to delivery, I feel like it would have been like more of a dark and serious poem.
But this one generally was pretty positive, right? Like
it was really positive.
You kind of you win at the end of the poem. Like if you take the audience along with you for the ride, you kind of win at the end of this poem, right?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And of course the environment, it doesn't really have a set space, but literally speaking, this is taking place at the National Poetry Slam Finals, on final stage in front of hundreds of poets, in front of this live audience. So you can see that their physicality is on point, that they're performing for a really, really big crowd. But I think one of the things that's also difficult to pinpoint is the fact that even though there is a character, Black Panther, like you have pointed out, it's hard to figure out the objective because they are playing a character. They are playing, it's a persona. This isn't Mcpherson and Willis. This is what they are imagining Black Panther to speak like. So what happens when the character of the poem is no longer an actual character, but rather yourself, or rather the actual speaker of the poem? And with our next example, we're going to go over to Janae Johnson, who I think provides an extremely good answer for us.
I also think, just real quick, what was interesting too is because it's like a duo, and to think about a duo being one person, which is just really interesting. And as far as like looking at like posture and performance, I felt like they did a really good job too of like like I said, being fluid, but also like one of them is doing one movement, but the other's doing another, and they play off each other really well. So I thought that was interesting.
Yes, definitely. And since you are in control of your space and your environment with Verselandia, how can you find equivalents for this in making sure you have the right camera angles, because they were able to have their entire body. But if you're a person who's not really a big body type person, maybe you would feel more comfortable sitting down and having the camera straight at you, or perhaps standing at a podium, or perhaps just standing and being still as a tree. You'll be able to find all these different ways to help you perform. And Janae Johnson gives us a pretty, I think, a very strong example of a lot of different ways you could theoretically bring this to life, especially if you are wanting to speak from a more personal and intimate perspective.
his own rage after George Wolfe. In the 6th grade, my best friend would have told you I knocked that white girl out cold. That wasn't completely true, but I did win. And when I walked home, I showed my mother my trophy fists, my clean face, told her that white girl didn't even get a hit on me. Mama say I should apologize to the white girl. I say, nah. I won. Mama say, that's not what it's about, child. I say, but she called me a nigger. She called me a nigger. She called me a nigger, wonder why. Mama wasn't proud of this white girl blood on her daughter's good clothes, and 18 years later, I think about this thing called black rage. Think about how my mother saw it first and perhaps feared his teeth. Think about all the good reasons to call me a nigger. Think about how that white girl didn't have a good reason to call me a nigger and how she threw the first punch. And how I was the one who had to unlearn the fight. How I was forced to silence this rage. Therapy, suit and tie, code switch this rage. How they gave this rage a scholarship, a grant, an opportunity. That's what you still mad for. Ain't like somebody called you a nigger or nothing. Think about the white lady who patted me on the head. How I told her ass off. How she responded with you go girl. How in that moment I trained my tongue to say nothing. And ain't that the truth? Ain't that a fair fight? Ain't that an easy disposal of all we thought we deserved? Think about the white sports fan with a full painted black face and how they say I shouldn't be triggered, how they say he was helping his team win. I think about what winning is, how I thought I won once, how I showed my mother my trophy fists, my clean face. Think about how to kill my own rage without being part of a genocide. I think about genocide and all that blood on my people's good clothes. Think about strange fruits and the nuances of both being queer and black, and fighting for black when black trumps queer and queer dies by black hands and black don't see queer even in death. I think about death in the many ways a dead black body be a protest. Think about this validated anger, this thirst for justice, how I went back to that white girl and I apologized. How to be black is to apologize all the goddamn time. I think about the safety in that. I think about my mama and how she only wanted me to live, and how to live is to control this rage. To control this rage is to lie. It is to walk in any given space and present a muzzled version of yourself that doesn't carry this rage, this burden, this culture, this wrinkle above those brows, these fists, these teeth, these explanations as to why you should be alive. It is to go back and look at the source of your rage square in the eyes and be strong enough, be black enough to tell them, I'm sorry.
And that was Janae Johnson. So, first impressions.
Wow.
Yeah,
my
right?
first-
It kind of
it was
makes me
really
mad how
powerful.
good it is.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, she is very, very nice, so you can't be mad at her.
Yeah, it's just really heavy, I think, too. Just like the way that she delivers it, you really feel the emotion behind it. And it feels like, you're getting to witness just really strong emotionality. And it seems like, what she's talking about too is like really, really hard things too. So it just feels like you're being invited into a really intimate space with someone.
Definitely, definitely. And I think that relates back to, since we're doing my whole lesson and all the tenets of core, the characters. Here for my workshop purposes, I never want to assume that the poet and the speaker of the poem are the same people, because that's assumptive and like you just don't want to do that. And just to make things easier, I will just refer to them as the speaker. So we have the speaker, and we have this first scene with the speaker and the speaker's mom. And then we have the white girl, and we have the white girl's mom. We also have other various characters that are appearing throughout this poem. We have the sports fan. We have that white lady who pats her on the head. We have this embodiment of the people giving her scholarships, all these different small microaggressions, all these different moments, a lot of different scenes happening in this poem. It's a lot more theatrical to a certain extent. What is the speaker's relationship to the rest of the world and to their environment? What do you think?
I think the relationship like that the speaker has with this poem is like it talks about like the struggle of like having to like hide your emotions and having to like apologize for things that you believe you shouldn't need to apologize for.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's also that's a pretty strong objective as well, right? Like, but of course, how can you, that's such a big objective. So I think what Janae Johnson does by giving us a myriad of different scenes, and not only that, she changes her tempo. She changes her tone of voice. She makes jokes. Like, I laughed so hard when she went, nah, like in that very first couple lines. Like, she introduces us to a very, very intimate part of her life. And she does this in a lot of different ways. And her attitude, her voices, her postures, right? She's using a lot of different things. The environment of all these various different scenes in her poem. And as we know, this big objective, her exploring the relationship between herself, the speaker, and their rage, being able to muzzle that rage as the poem even speaks. So we've got a lot of new different angles, this compared to the Black Panther poem, in which the Black Panther poem, you know, Black Panther is a persona. So we understand that versus, oh, this is coming from an I statement. This is coming from a individual speaker. Now, let's look at a different example where we're still looking at a individual I speaker, but in Janae Johnson's poem, the speaker is kind of addressing all of this, and there is no one person that the speaker is addressing. So let's look at an example of a poem in which the speaker is addressing just one person or one entity. And this poem is by Hanif Abdurraqib, and he is my favorite author ever. I can give another presentation on him later.
Just a heads up too, when you share, there should be a button that you can press that says share audio, or like presentation audio, because what we're hearing is your speakers playing it in your room.
Okay, cool. Then let's try this.
You have to play.
Yeah, I was like, no, there you go.
No, I don't hear anything.
I mean, maybe no one is actually from anywhere.
That sounds good.
So
Just mute your own mic.
These things, right? I just rolled out of bed. I mean, maybe no one is actually from anywhere. It's so hard to trace these things, right? I just rolled out of bed one morning and had this head full of good hair. And when I say good hair, I mean it was passed down from someone who was once dragged through a field by it until their scalp became a wide open mouth. But it looks good underneath this fitted hat on the dance floor. No, you cannot borrow this dance. No, you cannot stand over another dark and shaking body and breathe in the smoke we leave in our wake. I get that we are all human or whatever, but I don't even know what that would do to your bones. I don't know if your bones bend like my bones. I come from a boxed-in culture. I come from people who traveled entire oceans wrapped around each other. I was born to a woman who is now inside of a box. So you see, some things just come natural to me, but maybe you're right though. Maybe there is no such thing as a country. Maybe it's just gutted earth and rows of sharp teeth that never stop tearing at my flesh. So I'm not exactly sure which wound is the wound I belong to anymore. I'm saying I don't even know what my own skin looks like unless it is split open and spilling. So it gets a little hard to keep track, right? I'm just saying it must be nice to wrap your arms around an unscathed body. It must be nice to wrap your tongue around every word in a song without also asking to bleed out on a sidewalk. Look, all I know is I began running once the fire started, and I have not stopped since. Maybe I come from running. Maybe running is a country. Maybe everyone who lives there misses someone who they thought would live forever. I'm glad you haven't found it yet. I'm glad that you haven't caught me yet. I'm glad you have a black friend. I'm sorry your black friend may die one day soon. And then there will only be me.
And that was Hanif Abdurraqib. So, first, apologies for y'all not being able to hear the first two poems as well. I will put the links to those poems into the chat, so then y'all will be able to have access to it. But Hanif, first impressions.
Sorry, I'm thinking.
Hanif's a thinker. One of my favorite things about that poem is the first time I saw it published. It was published in a landscape way, so you had to tilt your screen in order to read it. And I kind of love that engagement that Hanif had with the reader of like, I am literally trying to make you see things my way. So you have to turn the screen in order for you to read what I am trying to say to you.
Yeah, and I also liked he had like it seemed to me like a casual tone, but also like that casual tone, it didn't collide with his words, because his words were like so like deep and extreme that you just can't help but like listen regardless of how casual he sounded.
Mm-hmm. He lets both his words and his voice do the work for each other, right? Like he's not trying too hard, he's not trying too little. He understands how to present his work.
Yeah.
And we get, just a close-up of his face. We don't get a lot of physicality, but we get the attitude, we get the voice, we still get his posture. Even if we don't physically see it, we still kind of feel the posture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the objective's a little lofty, so why don't we talk about the relationship? The speaker is... Who is the you in this poem? Who is the speaker talking to?
He's talking... I feel like he might have just been talking basically to the audience that was there watching. Or... yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's great. I don't think there's a real answer to this. I think questions, above all, are very fun because I like discussion and, everything's made up, stay woke. But yes, talking to you, who is you, talking directly to the audience, that's very powerful, especially if... And then when we look at the example of Black Panther speaking directly to Batman, if we remove Batman from the equation and we just hear Black Panther talking to you about these things... Versus if Janae Johnson now dropped all of those different characters and she was only speaking, that speaker was only directly speaking to that white girl. Or directly speaking to the concept of Black rage. Mm-hmm. So Hanif choosing only one person, one thing to speak to versus all these different ways. Mm-hmm. And of course, Hanif, even though he claims that he's washed up and he's not good at slam, the boy took 4th in the individual world poetry slam. So like, he's a good slam poet. He's a good performer. And there's no need to be high flying, fire bending, all that, I like to imagine poets as benders. And I think Hanif's an earthbender. And like, you don't need to be an airbender or like do all these showy things like Mcpherson and Willis, who are clearly firebenders. Like, and Janae, I think, is like an airbender. You don't have to be that way in order to give a good performance. If you understand your words and your style, if you understand yourself as a character in the poem, you'll know what the objective is, what your relationship is, and how to serve the environment. So with all that being said, we've got our final example, which is going to be our jumping off point for a writing prompt if you guys are into it. And then we've got time at the end to just kind of discuss, talk, and chop up. If you guys have any questions specifically or if general, then we can just start doing that. But here's our last poem. And before I show you guys this poem, I always like to give a little history lesson on this poem because I love the little history lesson on this poem. So Terrence Hayes writes a sonnet about how to be a Black boy. And Angela Nafis loves this poem. So then writes a poem about how to be a Black girl. And then John Sands, her friend, loves this. So he decides to write a poem after Angela Nafis, after Terrence Hayes, about what it's like to be a white boy. And then it just continues. Megan Falley has a version about what it means to be a fat girl. Jonathan Mendoza has one about what it means to be a biracial boy, in which he literally splits himself into brown boy, white boy. And this poem that I'm about to show you is Angel's and John Sands' poem, Black Girl, White Boy, respectively. But the fun thing about this poem is it's a group piece, but it's two individual poems that they have combined together and that they have scripted out. So sometimes they'll say each other's lines. In our first example with Black Panther, those two poets wrote it collaboratively together. This example, we have two separate poems that have been combined into one body. So with all that being said, let's look at Angela Nafis and John Sands.
White boy knows all the lyrics. White boy don't know the room. White boys get off at 86th Street. White boys stay on some everyone but me, right?
Black girl can jump 2 ropes at one time. Black girl day is every day. Black girl day is not today.
White boy incidental gentrified. Coffee shop Bed-Stuy. White boy black music. White boy black friends. White boy Rosetta Stone. Black girl don't get sunburn. Black girl grease and black girl pick. Black girl thinks she cute. Black girl thinks she bad.
Black girl, but never black woman. Black girl, white pearl. Black girl, cocoa butter. Black girl, hate. Black girl at the ocean floor. White boy.
Your problem. White boy cuts in line because he's ready to order.
Black girl,
scared to see a documentary. White boy finally knows he's a white boy.
White boy knows all the words to the song. White boy probably thinks the song is about him. Black girl, exotic.
Black girl, other. Black girl has 12 shadows. Black girl has 1 door. It is locked. The key is white. Boy knows every exit.
White boy holds.
In his boxers.
White boy holds.
In a lot of shit. White boy off limits.
Black girl has no windows. Black girl can't vote. Black girl third world. Black girl birth world. Black girl college. Black girl lunch table.
White boy eats the last French fry. White boy scored the CD, book, and t-shirt pre-sale. White boy clean as a sunrise.
Black girl too dark. Black girl act white.
Black girl promotion.
Black girl token.
Black girl rap.
Black girl on black back.
White boy
Too fly for guilty. White boy
too guilty for fly.
Black girl all good till history.
White boy safe in this whole food.
White boy third base with an eye on the plate.
White boy not what you thought.
White boy bike dodging traffic. Black girl
white deodorant. Black girl
clear deodorant that turns white. Black girl white teeth.
Black girl white bones.
Black girl white noise.
Black girl white politics.
Black girl black history from white ass pen. Black girl white teachers. Black girl dad work for white boss. Black girl mom clean white ass.
Black girl grave. White boy tickets to the mud fight. Thought he was the only one who wouldn't get dirty.
Black girl still jumping 2 ropes at once, trying not to get hung.
And the little smile they give each other at the end because they're friends. They are friends, even though that poem might beg to differ. First impressions, y'all.
I really like how, I mean, I know the whole, like, one of, like, the main themes was to, like, see both sides of the story, but I really liked how clear it was. And I also liked how they put, like, light onto, like, the inequality between the two.
Definitely, yeah. They both had very strong perspectives. The characters of the speakers, respectively, of Black Girl and White Boy, we can kind of see their relationship with their environment and how their objectives are different from each other and how their objectives change when they are put in different relationships or in different environments. What does it mean to be a Black girl? What does it mean to be a white boy? What does it mean to be this, quote, character? What did you guys think about when they switched lines in which Angel Nafis would say white boy lines, and John Sands would say black boy line or black girl lines. How did we feel about that?
I think that really showed like how they saw each other in their own lenses.
Yeah, it it changes it, right? Because if Angel had said those lines, like if Angel had said black girl white bones, and when there's a moment when John Sands kind of points like black girl white bones, and like this level of like, wait a minute, there still is this kind of relationship that black girl has with whiteness, and the fact that John almost plays a foil to this. And this is kind of where we go into the idea of performing and theatrics again, where they're looking. They're never looking at each other. They're always looking forward. And yet you can tell that they're having an argument, a conversation with each other. Black girl, white history, black girl, white bones, like the way they keep going back and forth with each other. And then when Angel goes on her very, very long black girl and like all that incredible at the end, and you just see John Sands stare dead into the camera without flinching, and the next thing he says is black girl grave. And I think this is a great example of a poem that uses both a lot of cadence, a lot of different scenes, a lot of different attitudes and objectives, a lot of different voices and postures. And at the very end of the day, I think this is a poem that lends itself to create a lot of clay, because it's a poem that asks you to identify yourself in the most base way and then go about it. You don't even have to worry about contractions. It is just cause and effect. Blank does blank. White boy blank. White boy gets off on 86th Street. White boy thinks every word is about him. It's just that. And that's what our writing prompt's going to be, is that you want to focus on one of your identities, whether or not for me it is Portlander, youngest brother, queer boy, Asian American, half Chinese, half Vietnamese, crybaby, whatever identity I want to explore, that's what the poem is going to be. Crybaby does this, crybaby does that, crybaby does these things. And with that in mind, let's keep core the character of Crybaby. What is his attitude? What is his voice? And what is his posture? What is the objective of this poem? What is Crybaby's relationship to the environment? And what is the environment that Crybaby lives in? So that's the little homework. And
do you want us to do that now or later? Or?
I think, well, we're about 15 minutes out, and I want to make sure that I'm here as a resource for the folks that are attending right now. So would y'all want more writing time to do some prompt stuff? Do we want to do a little bit more discussion and Q&A? How are we feeling, y'all?
I would like to do a little bit of writing about that with that prompt.
Yeah, let's do it. Cool. I will put 5 minutes on the clock, come back, and we can kind of share our experiences.
All right.
All right.
Good. Thanks.
Let's do it. Okie dokie. And that was 5 minutes. Go ahead and wrap up that final thought. Leave a little note if you're on a big roll and you need to remember where you were going. And how are y'all feeling?
I was in the middle of the line, but I feel like after that line, I kind of got like a good short poem.
Ooh. Well, by all means, if you feel like reading it or just talking about the experience, we are here for you. Because at this point, I think we're just chopping it up and talking about poems now. Unless you guys want to talk about WandaVision.
So I titled I like the identity that I went for was tomboy, and like the whole like idea of the poem that I had was going from like tomboy to realizing that there was something more to me than just being a tomboy and showing myself as a tomboy, and that there was a reason why I felt like I had to identify as that.
Ooh, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Can we hear it?
Yeah.
Ooh, I would love to. Thank you for sharing.
All right, so I'm gonna start. Tomboy decides to not wear dresses and like them. Tomboy states she's not like other girls. Tomboy wears flannels and caps to prove that she is an individual. Tomboy goes from child to teenhood. Tomboy listens to aggressive music. Tomboy wears nothing but black jeans and her comfortable support hoodie. Tomboy begins to accessorize and glamorize. Tomboy feels left out from boys and girls. Tomboy realizes she doesn't like labels. And that's where the cutoff point was.
Ooh, ooh.
I love that.
And you know, also rules are meant to be broken, so who's to say you have to stick with the tomboy and Afra? I mean, learn the rules to break the rules. Everything's made up. Stay woke.
Exactly.
That was awesome.
Thank you for sharing that. That was wonderful. Oh,
I really like the time constraint too of this exercise. I feel like as someone who does not identify as a poet originally, it was nice to just I think too, like the format of that poem before too just feels really accessible. So it's cool to practice some stuff.
yeah. And at the very least of it, I feel like you get a lot of thesis statements for something that could become a larger poem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like definitely right. Like right here, I feel like it. I know that it can be larger, but I'm like proud with what I got in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
a whole story already in 5 minutes. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should I read my draft?
Yeah.
If you want to.
Okay. Okay, here it goes. Queer Latina only marks the box in private. Queer Latina didn't see the signs as signs until later. Queer Latina only comes out on the internet once a year on her Twitter. Queer Latina has only brought boyfriends home. Queer Latina has only been kissed once, has only been to queer brunches to be affirmed by Portland queers, has only been advised to keep it quiet by her queer aunt's girlfriend, has only been told by family it would be a scandal. Oh my God.
I love that so much.
Yeah, I was like, okay, no poet, fine. Then make a few essays out of that, please. Thank you. How are you feeling?
Me?
Yeah, about what you got.
Oh, I think it's good. I think it's something that I've been wanting to write about actually in essay form, but also just like go back and forth. And I'm like, what do I even have to say? But again, I think like just having a short period of time and just making myself write something is like really helpful.
For sure. And I know for a fact that with those poems that I presented, they all had like various memories and scenes in them. But I know for a fact that Hanif comes from a journalistic background, and he's always described his writing as taking a snapshot of something and slowly exploding it for everything that it's worth. So the fact that his poem is this literal and figurative unboxing of his culture. Mm-hmm. And then we have Janae Johnson that literally starts off with this personal memory. Mm-hmm. And I love that like you kind of had these very specific scenes in it, as well as you, Shayla. Yes, is that how we pronounce your name?
Yeah.
Yeah, as well as you, Shayla. Like I could see those scenes. Like I I saw myself like in that position, and then I went to my English teacher's like classroom to have lunch.
Awesome.
Should I share my little guy?
Sure.
I've done this exercise a gazillion times, so let's see if this sounds anything new. Crybaby, gentle drizzle. Crybaby, moist socks. Crybaby, water inside your rain jacket. Crybaby, too sensitive. Crybaby, grow up. Crybaby, man up. Crybaby, falls in love. Crybaby, waterfall. Crybaby, cries some more. Crybaby, cries his room flooded. Cries the world a new river. Crybaby, left you a passive-aggressive note on the mirror. Wrote the message in fog. Crybaby was once a cloud. Crybaby looks out the window. Crybaby sees the rain. Crybaby is the rain. Crybaby all dried up now. Crybaby jumps into the ocean. Crybaby leaps into himself.
I loved it.
Water stuff, which
Exactly.
which I think kind of gently leads into my very gentle homework prompt, but something that I always revert back to when I'm just trying to think of like how to explore something that's on my mind is like, for example, if I want to explore sadness, being a crybaby or just being sad, I'll put that at the top of the page. And then underneath it, I'll put who, what, when, where, and why. Of just like who reminds me of sadness, what, when, where, why. And then I'll also put the 5 senses underneath it. I'll think about the 5 senses and try to relate those senses to the emotion of sadness. What would sadness look like? What would it taste like? What would it sound like? And now we have 10 different ways at looking at such a massive emotion. And then maybe we can start seeing the relationship between these things, figure out what the objective of this poem is, and even figure out what your attitude, voice, and posture about this is. This doesn't have to necessarily be a poem about sadness in which you lose at the end. This could be a poem about reclaiming your sadness, or just recognizing it, or just looking at it at the face.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've got for y'all.
Awesome.
4 and some senses.
And Sayla, also Alex, I don't know what your schedule is like in the coming weeks, but Alex will also be doing some of the feedback sessions that we have, like the one-on-one coaching sessions. So if you're interested in working with Alex or other slam poets, you can book time with them to just like work through, if you have drafts at some point, or even just kind of like working through a metaphor or whatever. That's what those sessions will be good for too, if you want more one-on-one help.
Yeah, that's cool. I was planning on looking into that and seeing like if I were able to do a feedback session, because I feel like that would be really important.
Yeah, and you can sign up for one on each of the different days. So if you also want to get a couple of different folks' opinion, and basically since they haven't, a lot of people haven't signed up yet, so I'm like, if you sign up for an early slot and then no one else comes, you can just have like an hour with someone, so if, or however long you feel like being with someone to get help. But I think that could also be cool if you're interested in that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for showing up. Hope you had a nice little hour. Glad you're able to get a very good first draft of I think is a poem, but whatever you want to consider it. I thought it was wonderful. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for participating. Hopefully you can take a few tools out of this. As always, everything's made up. Stay woke. I always like to imagine rules as just sandboxes. It's just different ways to play in the sand. So it's not a restriction. It's just merely that's the way the bucket is shaped.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. It was really interesting and useful.
Excellent. Have a good one. Take care.
Do you have any questions before you head out about Verselandia or anything?
No, I think I have everything covered.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll keep you in the loop about those dates and stuff, so feel free to sign up and reach out if you have any questions.
All right, cool. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, take care.
You too.
Thank you. I'm going to stop the share.